Week 13 is in the books, and the playoff races in the AFC and NFC are heating up. We're going to break them down. We're going to do a little thought or not as well today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to issue a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. And of course, thank you for making Locked On NFL Scouting your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Joe, happy Victory Monday to those who celebrate. We have, as you alluded to
everyone, even if you're Florida State, are you still celebrating Victory Monday? You won.
I have a controversial opinion, and I'm not really interested in getting into a debate about it. But
same. So we agree. Cool. Let's move on.
Can you we'll state the opinion. There will be no further commentary, and then we'll move on.
I'm glad FSU didn't get in.
You can look at the last two games Florida State has played, and there's zero justification put them in the playoff, whether that's fair to them or not. Very unfortunate circumstances to have a quarterback injury that totally derailed your season. It is what it is.
Dude, last year it was so easy. The easiest college football playoffs there ever was. This year,
this was probably the most chaotic. You mean to tell me the committee had a chance to put blue blood programs like Texas, Michigan, and Alabama in, and they were going to voluntarily leave one of them out? It was never going to happen. And I think they got the right teams in based off the resumes at the end of the season.
I think I'm on board with it. I would have liked to seen a spot for Georgia, but
don't lose your
I get it.
Your playing game.
Right, don't lose your playing game. Well, Alabama don't lose to Texas. Texas don't lose to Oklahoma. You know what I mean? Like, it's not easy.
That was the cycle, right? It's like you had to put Alabama in front of Georgia because they had the same record and Alabama won the conference. Then you had to put Texas in front of Alabama because Texas won a head-to-head matchup against Alabama. Thank goodness Oklahoma wasn't in the mix.
Good thing Alabama took advantage of the miracle necessary to beat Auburn to even get there, right?
Right. That playoff race is over, though. That playoff race is done.
Nice way to get us out of that, Kyle.
Turning the wheel. We're going back the other way.
I feel like you threw a punch there, kind of like Dre Greenlaw there. It was
the security guy.
Yeah, well,
we should probably talk about that game.
Yeah,
quickly. One of the games we were different on this week. Naturally, we were different on two games and went 1-1.
Yeah.
I'm a little ticked off at Russell Wilson for throwing an interception in the end zone at the end of the game because I could have got you on both games.
Couldn't believe it, right? He threw three picks. That was kind of Russell's thing. He's like, not going to put the ball in a bad spot.
Yeah,
not going to throw the picks.
Turn into a pumpkin real quick, but we'll talk about that in our next segment. San Francisco waxes Philadelphia in Philly after a slow start. Shut out of the first quarter, too.
Yeah. Well, 6-0, right? Coming up with 2 field goals, I think, was big for them to, not let it get like a big lead. But then the second half came and 49ers just told you that, hey, we're the best team in the NFC. We don't care if we're on the road. We're going to take it to them. And I think that the Eagles and their defensive issues, particularly at linebacker, safety, non-Darius Slay, like they got some issues in that back seven. They really, really do. And if their defensive line can't dominate, they're in trouble with that defense. I love a lot of what they have offensively, but I think that defense is going to get in the way.
Linebacker. So we're waiting for the Shaq Leonard decision. He's deciding.
Is he going to help him, Kyle? Is he going to help him? The Colts just said goodbye. They're in the playoffs.
Well, there's also a financial element with the Colts too. Is he?
They also have a Zaire Franklin and EJ Speed are better than Darius Leonard.
Well, they're more dynamic players at this stage for sure. But Philly's got dynamic players that don't know their what from a hole in the ground. as illustrated by what Kyle Shanahan did to him down the stretch. So you have three teams that have kind of played each other in the coagulated top tier of the NFC.
Ooh,
You have
good word usage there.
San Francisco has beat both NFC East teams. Philadelphia at 10-2 and Dallas at 9-3. Dallas now plays Philly next week at home with first place in the NFC East on the line. And then obviously if San Francisco can take care of business in their schedule, they play Seattle at home. San Francisco a week from now could be walking into week 15, because next week's week 14, as the number one seed in the AFC, courtesy of head-to-head tiebreakers.
Are we convinced? I mean, we'll talk about Dallas and Philly later on, but I don't know about Dallas, man. They got Philly, Buffalo, at Miami, Lions coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's a tough stretch. And they have plenty of questions, right? Like, what's their strength of victory? 330? Their strength of schedule less than 400? Like, there's plenty of questions here about Dallas and like how good of a good team they are.
They profile very similarly to Miami as a team that has waxed not good teams. Dallas has been very opportunistic defensively, obviously with DeRon Bland and his contribution. They're the number one scoring team in the NFL. But a lot of that, again, is courtesy of special teams defense contributions. Now, Dak Prescott has been MVP caliber player for the last, 6 weeks? The sustainability of that.
Saving my Dak takes for the last segment, by the way.
Okay, then we'll sit on that. But I will say, if Dak sustains his play, I do think Dallas can make the run. And in which case, I do think Dallas would be the NFC East champion. I wouldn't say the 1 seed, because I think San Francisco's going to take care of business there.
Certainly feels that way, even though some of the percentages still aren't that good for them based on some of the models you see, like 20 to 30% odds right now for San Francisco to be the 1 seed, although it certainly feels like they're a juggernaut, right? Like they've got out of that little lull. They're playing their best football at the right time. And, the way that they were able to just completely like out-coach and out-leverage Philly in that game and really exploit their defense is pretty exciting. Like they didn't have any answers.
So Dallas has extra rest next week. And
yeah.
Then Philly's got to do a West Coast trip and play Seattle.
Seattle's reeling.
Seattle is reeling. They are a team that is currently on the outside looking
9th.
In the current NFC standings. Philadelphia at 1, San Francisco at 2, Detroit at 3, Atlanta, your NFC South leader, is 4. Dallas at 9-3 is your first wild card. Minnesota 6-6. Green Bay 6-6. You also have the LA Rams and the Seattle Seahawks at 6-6.
Honestly, it probably took too long for us to get to the Packers, right? Huge win over KC. They're on a streak. Jordan Love playing confident football, producing. Like that team, if I had to say of all these teams in the NFC outside of Dallas, right? Dallas/Philly, one of them is going to be the wild card spots. And you brought this up last week, I'm pretty sure, or maybe even 2 weeks ago. I'm feeling the best about Green Bay being one of those last 2 wild card spots, more so than Minnesota or even LA or Seattle. Like it's going to be 2 of those teams I feel the most confident about Green Bay.
Can I stop you right there?
Yeah.
We can do the thing again. They have 5 games left. There are 5 games left. Giants, Monday Night Football next week in New York. Home against Tampa. Florida team coming up to Lambeau in December. At Carolina. Minnesota on the road, home against Chicago.
Brother.
That's 10. They're going to be a 10-win football team.
Yeah, they're going to be the 6th seed. They're going to be a 6th seed. So they're going to get to face whoever doesn't get the bye.
Probably.
No, they play the 3 seed. They'll play the 3 seed.
Which will probably be the...
It's going to be Detroit.
Well, yeah. No, we've talked about Detroit and that strength of schedule.
Yeah, but they're not going to be the 4. Like, the Falcons are going to be the 4 seed.
Right, but I'm saying, can Detroit get in front of one of the other 2?
I'll save my Detroit takes for the 3rd segment.
Okay, you can't joke in with some thought or not. So that's the NFC landscape. As far as other meaningful games in this block, Atlanta winning on the road against the Jets with their quarterback carousel continuing to spin. I have some thoughts on the Jets that we can save for the 3rd segment, but surviving a pretty ugly offensive performance against the Jets, which is kind of what you were afraid of coming in. Ugly win for them, but ugly wins count, especially when New Orleans falls behind Detroit 21-0 in the first seemingly 5 minutes of that football game.
Yeah.
And can't climb all the way out of the hole. Derek Carr continuing to struggle. Obviously, he was carted off the field for that game. Yeah. So,
yep.
I think this race is Atlanta's to lose. Atlanta, the only team in the division without a loss thus far. They're 3-0 in the division. Yep. And with 5 games to play, they got 3 more games against these caliber teams.
It's looking good for that. The wild card, those last 2 wild card spots is where I feel like it gets interesting in the NFC. We're going to focus on the AFC here in just a moment. Stick with us. But look, this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. This time of year can be challenging for some people, and it's natural to feel some sadness or even anxiety about it. But adding something new and positive to your life can counteract some of those feelings. Therapy can be a bright spot amid all the stress and change, something to look forward to make you feel grounded and give you the tools needed to manage everything that's going on. It's helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. If you're thinking of starting therapy, be sure to give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you do is fill out a brief questionnaire. That'll get you matched with a licensed therapist, and then you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Find your bright spot this season with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon.
We should probably do this first this time around. We're talking the AFC playoff race. Yeah. The Miami Dolphins are currently the 1 seed at 9-3. The Baltimore Ravens, who are on a bye this week, are currently the 2 seed at also 9-3. Jacksonville plays tonight. With a win, they would move up to the 1 seed. They are 8-3 playing Cincinnati tonight. Kansas City losing in Lambeau to the Packers, falling to 8-4. Then you have 4 7-5 teams in the race for 3 wildcard spots currently, plus a couple of 6-6 teams. You have Pittsburgh currently the 5, Cleveland currently the 6, Indy currently the 7. Houston is on the outside looking in, courtesy of head-to-head record. They are also 7-5. Then you have the Denver Broncos and Buffalo Bills at 6-6.
Yeah, the race for the 1 seeds pretty interesting, with Miami, as you mentioned, holding it. If Jacksonville beats Cincy, they become the 1 seed. But the dynamics, I guess Kansas City's the 4, but certainly not out of it with the tiebreaker over Miami, and Miami gets a chance to play Baltimore.
Yes.
Kansas City has the tiebreaker over Jacksonville, right?
And Jacksonville plays Baltimore as well.
That's why you play the games. But I feel it's those teams. That's the mix.
Well, yeah, Kansas City already has a head-to-head against Miami, like you said. So what's the lowest win total we've had for 1 seed? Was it Tennessee was 12-5 a few years back? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's probably it. Because Kansas City's had such good records. I mean, when's the last time they had 4 losses at this point in the season? Be big for Miami. Big win. I mean, had the game we anticipated against Washington. But if the AFC goes through Miami, that's huge, right? I feel like that would be potentially the biggest home field advantage you can get.
15-2 in their last 17 games at Hard Rock Stadium.
Yeah, making those other teams come down to South Florida, also meaning you're not going anywhere else.
Right.
We know how, the Dolphins in a very sophisticated offense with motion and timing, being at home and not in loud environments is going to be helpful for that. And, they're cruising. They're beating the teams they're supposed to. What's next? The Titans and then the Jets?
Titans, Jets, the next 2, and then they're home against Dallas.
Dallas, Baltimore, Buffalo to close it out, right?
Yeah. So 4 of their last 5 at home, which is the inverse of what happened last year when they were sitting at 8-3 and had to go on the road for that 3-game stretch where they were West Coast back-to-back, Chargers, San Francisco, and then had to go to Buffalo. Then they played on Green Bay and the Packers, and 2 had the concussion, and that was it.
They're going to be 11-3 going into that stretch. So I sort of feel like Miami's very much in the driver's seat here.
Well, I think it depends on what happens with Baltimore, because Baltimore playing them at home. The challenge with that is Baltimore's 2 games before that are at Jacksonville and at San Francisco on Monday night. It's gonna be a bloodbath. So I think that's what the Packers win last night was huge, because it was going to be very easy for Kansas City to just hold serve and keep going. Well, now they're a game back in the loss column to 3 teams, including 2 that they've won against head-to-head.
The driver's seat might be Jacksonville, Kyle. Bengals, Browns, Ravens in Jacksonville, Bucks, Panthers, Titans. Like, to me, they have the clearest path, in my opinion.
And if they win tonight, they are in the 1 spot.
Yeah. We'll play them all, but I feel like that's the team that's really in the driver's seat. You look at – go ahead,
You're going to have to root – if you want that to happen, you're going to have to root for Baltimore. If you want somebody who's not Jacksonville, that Baltimore game's huge.
Yeah. But I don't know. I guess I trust Jacksonville a little bit more, to be honest with you.
Than Baltimore?
Yeah.
Really?
I think so.
I think that'd probably be an uncommon opinion to have if you ask people to hold those 2 teams up against each other.
It's less about – it's more about their path.
Okay,
so it's less about in Jacksonville.
Head-to-head.
They have to go to San Francisco, and they have to play Miami. Their easy games are the Rams and Steelers, who are both like – I mean, you could say what you want about both teams. They're not pushovers.
Well, Pittsburgh might be now.
They might be.
I mean, we haven't really gotten into the rest of the results from this week, but is there a worse loss than Pittsburgh losing by 2 touchdowns to Arizona at home?
It's bad.
And losing Kenny Pickett in the process?
Yeah, the NFC West made a little noise in the AFC wildcard race yesterday with the Rams beating Cleveland and the Cardinals beating Pittsburgh.
We expected one.
Yeah.
We didn't expect the other. Now, for Cleveland having to run Joe Flacco out there to
started off looking good. And then they played the rest of the game, and
right. So I guess what's fascinating about that is talking about how about the AFC North teams and what they have left. So Cleveland is home against Jacksonville, home against Chicago. They have to go to Houston, who's the outside looking in 7-5 team. They have to play the Jets at home on a short week, week 17, and then they're at Cincinnati. So that's Cleveland. How many wins do you think they get out of that group sitting at 7 wins right now?
2 or 3.
Pick one. We're going to have to do the thing. Pick one.
Pick one what?
2 or 3. Pick one.
Oh. 2.
Okay, so that's a 9-8 football team. Pittsburgh, home short week against New England this week on Thursday Night Football. 3 points wins the game. Do they kick a field goal at some point?
Yeah, I think they get that one.
Okay, so they'll kick a field goal and win 3-0. That'll be cool. Maybe they'll win 3-2. Then they play another 7-5 team in Indianapolis. In Indy on Saturday. Now they get extra rest because it's Thursday. Then they're home against Cincinnati, the Jake Browning Bengals. At Seattle, at Baltimore to close the season.
They probably get 2, 3.
I mean, thank God you get New England at home on a short week.
Right.
If ever there was confidence points that you were going to have the home team win on a short week on Thursday Night Football, it would be this week, right?
Right.
And then you got, I don't know that they win. I guess for Mike Tomlin's purposes, they have to win another one. But I wouldn't feel good about picking them to win any of them.
Right. The team that got the biggest win is probably the Colts being able to hang on against Tennessee. 2 block punts in a row, missed extra point.
So can we pour one out for Ryan Tannehill, getting put in a position to have to hold the extra point? Tennessee misses the extra point in regulation and sends the game to overtime.
Yeah, this is a very sensitive topic for me because I've been told for years about just put any player in there as the holder. There's no reason to care about it.
Didn't you tweet yesterday, holders matter?
I did, yeah.
Didn't I see you send that tweet?
You're damn right I did.
So Stonehouse gets hurt, and that's already a sensitive subject because we're huge fans of Ryan Stonehouse.
Yeah.
Dude has an absolute cannon for a leg. 2 blocked punts, 1 return for a touchdown.
Yeah.
The next one returned inside the 5-yard line?
Yeah.
A missed extra point in regulation. And then you turtle in the red zone offensively in overtime if you're Tennessee. That was as bad of a loss as any team had the entire week, including like Kansas City, who had a lot of playoff leverage on the line.
I'm not sure it's a bad idea to kick in playoffs and not in overtime.
Now that you're, as long as you trust yourself to not, but the first time somebody kicks
I know. I get it.
Gives up a touchdown.
But how many times we're going to see a field goal get outdone by a touchdown?
So then don't play for the field goal, which is what becomes
the big thing is it's a 4-down game for you on offense. If you get a stop, if you don't allow a touchdown, it's a 4-down game for you on offense, and I think that's huge.
I don't disagree with you. So I feel like Indy, I'll save the thought for next segment. That'll be my first thought. Next segment.
Okay. Oh, it sounds like we got a loaded.
We have a billion things to talk about.
All right, so we got a billion things to talk about.
Let's talk about me going to FedEx Field yesterday, huh?
Tell us all about it, Kyle.
So I used our friends over at Gametime to get my I bought my tickets on Saturday night, so less than 24 hours before the game. And it's about a 90-minute drive for me, but I got on Gametime and I was kind of looking around, trying to get a gauge for where I wanted to sit. I knew I was going to the game. I just didn't commit to buying tickets. Sure enough, it was Fan Appreciation Day at FedEx Field, and 70% Dolphins fans, a lot of tickets for sale. The prices kept going down the closer you get to the game, so I got a really good deal. Plus, I used the Gametime promo code as well. Saved myself an extra $20 with Locked On NFL as the promo code when I made my first purchase after I made my account, after downloading the account. But, I went and had the tickets within an hour were delivered to my phone, so I had them on my phone ready to go. And had it in my virtual wallet on my iPhone, and it was super easy getting in. And it was a very cut and dry experience to pick last-minute tickets and get myself into the game at FedEx.
So snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
All right, we do it. I got 3. How many you got?
Okay. I started with 2, and now I think I've got 5 more just from talking through them. So,
all right, let me hit you with this one. The Detroit Lions season ends when they meet the Eagles, Niners, or Cowboys in the playoffs.
Versus any other playoff team?
I think they beat any team. But as soon as they play one of those 3, it's over for them.
What happens if they're the 3 and they catch Green Bay?
That's fine. Then whenever they get to one of those 3 teams, I'm not saying they can't win a playoff game. I expect them, if they don't play, I expect them to win any game.
But I'm saying I could very easily see them losing a home game to Green Bay with how Green Bay's playing right now.
Oh, so you're saying it's deeper. You're saying it's deeper.
I think that the pool of elimination teams for Detroit is deeper than just those 3.
Wow. Okay, that's fun.
So I'm going to say not on that thought.
I like it. Wasn't the angle I was expecting you to take, but you exceeded my expectations there. Well done.
My thought is at this stage, the AFC South may put 3 teams into the playoffs.
Could you imagine?
I mean, this Colts team just not dying, and they have a pretty digestible schedule with the quarterbacks. That the next 2 weeks they got Jake Browning and Mitchell Trubisky, and then Desmond Ridder, and then Aiden O'Connell.
3.
That's for the last 5 quarterbacks that they play.
And Houston's got the tiebreaker over Denver, which feels big.
Yes. And
Bengals are out.
Houston plays the Titans twice. They play the Jets next week. They're at 7, so that's 10.
So you need Indy. I mean, so the reality is,
and we just
Houston's not in right now. Yeah,
we just did the AFC North.
We see Pittsburgh and Cleveland coming out, right? Probably.
Yes. Probably.
So who's coming in? You think it's Indy and Houston? Indy. It's 2 of these 4 teams: Indy, Houston, Denver, Buffalo. And Buffalo's got the schedule problems. They have the team, but they don't have.
Right. They have the team, but you don't really have the draw.
No, and you screwed up already. You screwed up already.
And boy, if I were you, I'd be real ticked. I'm catching Kansas City coming off a loss.
The timing of the Bills games have been really bad this year, whether it's been getting Cincinnati for the 2 weeks when they're actually good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. They got to do the things that they're supposed to do. Yeah, I thought about that as I was processing that Kansas City game, and naturally just not rooting for Kansas City for obvious reasons.
Right.
But then I'm like, oh man, they're coming off a loss. You know, the two best teams coming off losses in the NFL over the last 3 years have been the Bills and the Chiefs. So something's got to give here. Both teams coming off losses. The Bills with extra rest. I don't know if that matters, but so that's your thought. I'll say you got a chance, but I am not. Man, you're probably. There's a lot that has to happen. You need both of those teams to fall out. We need one of them to fall out.
But we just went through it, and it's like we feel like they're 9-win teams. And
I think you got a good chance.
We can very easily find a path to 3 more wins for each of the South teams.
Dude, if you're an AFC division winner and you get to host insert whatever team, come on.
As long as it ain't the Bills.
Right. But the Bills effed it up. The Bills effed it up.
Well, they're not done yet.
Okay.
I think they'll make a little run.
They got to win at least 4 out of 5. Can they?
I think there'll be a fringe 10. That week 18 game's gonna be really interesting.
We'll see. We'll play them all and see what happens. Okay, I guess you're back up, or is it me?
No, you're up.
Okay, here it is. Kyler Murray should be the Arizona Cardinals quarterback in 2024, and them seeking a new quarterback this offseason is not something they should consider.
From a financials perspective, I think that's very cut and dry. I don't know from a play perspective, it merits one way or another. But with the contract that they gave and where that contract has matured to be, I have a really hard time justifying.
Yeah,
moving on from Kyler. Like you
just got to kind of roll with it for a little bit.
It's going to ruin you for another 2 years if you get rid of that contract.
Yeah, it's feeling better though. Without Cliff, with some of the competitive scrappiness of the team, Kyler Murray coming off the injury in unusual circumstances, playing reasonably well, right? I feel better about it today than I did entering the season.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too. Robert Saleh's handling of the quarterback situation after Aaron Rodgers' injury is a fireable offense.
Yeah, I think it's a great take. That's a great take.
We sat here and sat on Zach Wilson for 2 months, and then you start Tim Boyle, and Tim Boyle gets 2 games, and you're like, we might start Trevor Siemian now.
Right. Especially because there's been quarterbacks, whether it's Josh Dobbs, whether it's Joe Flacco, that are just better ideas.
I ain't even talking about Joe Douglas. Don't get me started on Joe Douglas.
Well, and maybe that's where you extend it a little bit more. Robert Saleh can only play Tim Boyle or Trevor Siemian, right? I think,
but how do you
take, Zach Wilson gives them their best chance to win.
Leash? How does Zach Wilson get a 3-month leash with how bad he played and Tim Boyle gets 2 games?
Here, I think 2 things can be true. Zach Wilson gives them the best chance to win with what they currently have, what they currently have has been unacceptable. And they've known since 5 plays into the season.
Right.
They've known.
So if you're just going to start pushing buttons now, there was no excuse once Zach had 3 weeks of what he put forth to start pushing buttons then. And you gave it another month and a half and sunk the season.
It's when you're playing.
Not that the season wasn't going to be sunk anyway, but
Kyle, this takes me back to the 90s when I'm playing like Mortal Kombat video games. I was never good at video games.
Finish him.
And you know what I did? And I was losing. I just pushed all the buttons. Hope for the best. Here's
what it feels like the Commanders are doing right now too, by the way, but that's a different story for another day.
They're just hoping they can't wait for week 18. This is a nice segue because this is a little bit about the Commanders and Tyreek Hill coming off of an amazing game where they send pressure and leave them isoed up with Tyreek Hill. Not a single player in the NFL can run with them. Thought or not, Tyreek Hill is the NFL MVP.
You know, I got yelled at I got a 1-star review on Locked On Dolphins for suggesting that Tyreek Hill was the Dolphins MVP because I didn't declare that it was Tua Tagovailoa. All
right, so absent of that one person's thought, is Tyreek Hill the NFL MVP?
I think you can make a very compelling case for Tyreek Hill to be the NFL MVP. If we're sitting here having the conversation about C.J. Stroud and then Houston falls off a little bit and we switch to Brock Purdy and then it was Patrick Mahomes and then Kansas City's 8-4, like, you know what I mean? I'm like, respectfully, I'm watching Kansas City lose that game last night. I'm sitting here wondering how in God's name we can't manufacture a single target for Travis Kelce.
It's not Mahomes.
It's not Patrick Mahomes, but it's at the same point, it's like it's an embodiment of what Pat's working with. Because everybody's okay, we're just gonna slam Kelce, and there's no effort made to move him around. And I get you could run the ball, but at one point it's a 9-point game. Like, you guys gotta go. Can you get your best player the ball?
you know my thoughts on NFL MVP. I think it's a quarterback award, right? Like,
yeah.
However, if there ever was a year that I would warm up to it, it's this year. And I think Tyreek Hill has a huge case, and I think Christian McCaffrey has a huge case.
Yeah.
If I'm being true to myself, and I'm saying I believe it's only a quarterback award because a non-quarterback can never be more important than a quarterback, I would pick Dak Prescott today.
I would probably, based off of the entire body of work, pick Dak Prescott as well.
Today. Just today.
Now,
the rest of the games matter.
It's going to change again. You could probably
ask. Last week, I probably would have told you Hurts.
Every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
My answer will be different until
Correct.
week 17, week 18.
Correct.
But we're deep enough into this season now. You have obviously a big enough body of work with 12 games, 13 games for some of these teams. It matters. Like the sample size matters at this point. But how you finish the fourth quarter of games is really where things are won. So, do I want to spring? I have a personal take for you and I, a thought.
Okay.
I don't care if the Patriots get the number 1 overall pick.
I'm rooting for whatever keeps Bill Belichick in place in New England and Israel. That's all. Whatever that means, whatever that has to happen, that's what I want to be true.
Did you enjoy his post-game comments?
I did not see these.
His effective answer to every question was about the quarterback change. I thought he deserved it. Quote, I thought he deserved it. And everything else was effectively, quote, I don't know. PR told him we had one more question. He said, okay, and walked off the podium.
Whatever keeps Bill Belichick running this damn operation is what I want to happen.
But we've seen enough quarterbacks go into situations and not have success, no matter how much we think of them as college prospects. I think things are that bad in New England.
Right, but if they flush it, then it's no longer that, right?
Right, but I think it's still going to take you a long time to build. It's going to take you 2-3 years to build back to competitiveness if you flush it. And then it's like you're going to be in the same place where you're going to be asking a lot of questions about a quarterback 3 years into a rookie contract, and he hasn't had what he's needed around him, and you don't know.
100%. They've written the book on how to not onboard a first-round quarterback. Failed him at every step of the way.
So I don't care if they
Bill.
Finish with the number 1 overall pick or not. I'm unconcerned. Thought or not?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that.
It's a thought.
It is a thought, but I also want them to keep Bill Belichick.
It's going to do it for us here on this episode of Locked On NFL Scouting. Kyle Crabbs Show. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. We appreciate you guys for checking out the show. As always, make it a great rest of your Monday. Enjoy Monday Night Football. We have Kay Adams, Tua Tagovailoa, and I forget who the third person is on the Manning cast tonight, just so you know.
All right.
We'll see you there. Not on the Manning cast. We'll see you tomorrow.